de la commune, dont j'ai l'honneur d'être le représentant intempestif et constitutionnel.
These are forgotten voices, or rather voices that are no longer heard, voices of the political organizations of the 20th century, songs and speeches that have resounded from thousands of record players.
À la santé du roi.
Camarades, pour tenter de sortir de la crise économique qui l'étouffe.
During a century and until the progressive decline of the record industry in the 2000s, the production of audio propaganda of all kinds flourished. Yet its content has been all but forgotten and is hardly ever studied by today's historians. This prompted the history and musicology researcher, Jonathan Thomas, to gather nearly 900 recordings, which had been scattered and rarely digitized on a single platform until now. The PS2X project, short for Recorded Audio Propaganda in the 20th Century, was born. Its goal is to allow historians access to this little exploited content.
I became interested in it by sheer chance, through an internet search. And from there, I started to think about the importance of recordings and of sound in politics. This type of media is fairly accessible. Many of the archives are kept here at the BNF, but not everything is necessarily easy to access. You have to multiply sources, and these are scattered, which in the end makes the research rather complicated.
But what do these records actually contain? A lot of speeches, but also militant or popular songs, like the ones you can hear in the first series of sound propaganda records produced in France. And to start with, the SFIO, predecessor to the Socialist Party, with the song Worker Seize the Machine.
These are songs that were intended to be played at workers' parties in militant gatherings, until other organizations became envious, like l'Action Française, which subsequently released its own series of royalist recordings.
Recorded speeches appeared a few years later. This one is a recording of the future council president, the socialist Léon Blum, in 1929.
De quoi est né le socialisme? De la révolte des plus nobles sentiments de l'âme humaine, blessée par la vie, méconnue par la société.
Working with sound is completely different from just using record sleeves, written material, or historical accounts. You hear speakers who aren't always familiar with the microphone and who may stumble. You also hear some editing, someone announcing the speaker as if from the platform of a live political meeting. So having access to the sound means having access to the heart of recorded sound propaganda and actually being able to work directly with the object.
To allow researchers to hear the contents whenever possible, the PS2X project also includes digitization. 250 of the 900 references in the catalog have a listening link. 200 sound files have been provided by the French National Library, BNF, and about 50 are from the Phonobase, an online sound database operated here in Montrouge, near Paris, and whose contents are digitized by historian Henri Chamoux.
These recordings are pretty fragile. They break like porcelain and melt like chocolate. They are brittle, so they need to be preserved.
Once the right stylus has been selected to play a record on the record player, its content is recorded by this device and converted into digital form. The sound is then transferred to a computer and undergoes audio processing before being put online. For example, Henri Chamoux is digitizing this recently discovered record, which contains a little-known speech by General de Gaulle.
This record was parachuted into French territory by the Royal Air Force to relay the voice of General de Gaulle, who wishes a Merry Christmas 1941 to the children of France. A true testament to its time.
L'ennemi et ses amis prétendent que c'est bien fait pour notre nation d'avoir été battue. Mais la nation française, ce sont vos papas, vos mamans, vos frères, vos sœurs. Vous savez bien, vous, mes enfants, qu'ils ne sont pas coupables.
This historical testimony was reissued when de Gaulle passed away in 1970. It was published by SERP, the music label directed by Jean-Marie Le Pen at the time. This record and its history will thus join the PS2X platform. An information sheet attached to the records, whether they are digitized or otherwise, indicates their author, content, and the location of the archive where they can be accessed. Paul Boulland, a CNRS historian and specialist in communism, has filled in about 20 of these sheets. Jonathan Thomas introduces him to the platform.
Large collections by political category have already been created. The Communist collection, Socialist collection, all sorts of political groups going back to the 1930s. Let's open a data set to see how it's organized. We can see the caption, date of recording, date of release, and the institution holding the recording, which in this case is the BNF.
This data opens up new fields of research to shed light on the history and functioning of political organizations.
It's one of the tools used by political activists. There are lots of them. T-shirts, bags, badges are all part of militant activity and are often used to finance organizations, mobilizations, or electoral campaigns. And just like other objects, recordings tell the history of economics and militant practices.
They also tell the story of the media and how they are accessed by these political organizations. The vinyl record was the medium of choice for political groups who wish to communicate freely.
The current content of the platform is still in its infancy. If the PS2X continues to develop, researchers believe it could be double. Many smaller labels have yet to be discovered. In the meantime, experts in several disciplines of the social sciences can already use this audio database to bring forgotten parts of history out of the shadows.